On another front, another year, another lackluster market. The PSE index is still stuck in a narrow range, 30% below its 2018 peak and lagging behind regional peers. Halfway through earnings season, some blue chips are beating expectations, others are slipping, but the biggest trading story is Digiplus Interactive. Today, August 18th, Digi Plus joins the PSEi after driving half of daily trades in just 2 months and posting its best quarter ever. Yet the stock is down 20% after results, trading at 26 pesos, less than half of its all-time high. And now, all eyes are on regulation, with the BSP ordering e-wallets to cut gambling links. PAGCOR under pressure and lawmakers calling for a ban. Joining us now is William Cabangon, the president of AAA Securities, to break down what Digi Plus means for the market, how regulation could hit its outlook, and where the next big PSE story could come from. Hi, Will. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Mikey. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, let's put a spotlight on Digi Plus and its exceptional dominance. In a market of about 300 listed companies, Digi Plus has made up half of the daily trading volume in just the past 2 months. That's a lot of action. Tell us, Will, how unusual is this? And what does it say about the overall health and depth of our market?
So you have it right. Digi Plus has been about a third to a half of all of the exchanges trading volume for the better part of the last 2 months. Is it unusual? Yes, it is unusual. We haven't seen a stock sort of dominate both the overall narrative of the stock exchange, as well as really be so present in the news every day as Digi Plus. It's that rare stock that went from 1 peso to as high as 65 pesos. Not purely of speculation. This is an incredibly profitable company. It makes more money than Jollibee, just to put that in perspective. So it is very, very unusual. Now, what does it say? I think it says a lot. When I talk to clients, and I talk to clients about this almost every day, the sentiment is kind of the same across every investor, that this is really the only interesting thing going on in the stock market right now. There's real volatility here. People see a real chance to make money. It's the only blue chip that's posting eye-popping earnings, growing, year over year, 20, 30% year over year. That's atypical for a blue chip. So that's I think what it says about the market overall.
Yeah, people are saying it's been the only real moneymaker in the market as of late. To add to that, Will, the stock is up about 8.11% on heavy volume of over 76 million shares. What's driving this surge? How much of it is fundamentals? How much of it is momentum?
So currently, the price action surrounding Digi Plus is basically entirely around potential regulations. On a fundamental basis, it's trading at some of the cheapest levels it's ever traded. It's trading at less than 10 times its forward earnings. To put that in perspective, at its all-time high of 65, it was trading at about 20 times. So it's trading at less than half its old valuation. All of this despite posting their greatest or their most profitable quarter ever in Q2 of this year. Mm-hmm. And what that says is that people don't necessarily value its historical earnings. When looking forward, the picture is much more unclear. I think the concern of investors in general now is, and the question they're asking themselves is, are the best quarters of Digi Plus behind it? Are we now going to see earnings slow down and decrease over the succeeding quarters? And it's really difficult to answer that question until we get some regulatory clarity.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think from the BSP.
Yeah, the BSP is cutting gambling links. 90% of the bets of Digi Plus come from e-wallets. With the BSP ordering these platforms to sever gambling links, how do you think that's going to hit the revenue of this firm?
So what's already been enacted has been severing the hyperlinks, the clickable links within e-wallets to transfer customers into the online gaming sites. Now, in the short term, that's very significant. but I think in the medium and long term, not very, because there are several ways around that. Uh, just getting customers to download uh, the gaming app, or getting them to go directly to the gaming website, that's a very, very quick way to get around e-wallets severing access. What I think is much more challenging, and I think it's still on the horizon, is what the BSP will do about cash transfer limits from e-wallets to the online gaming firms. And that's an important distinction between just being able to access the app, which is very easy to get around, but the actual cash transfer, that's where things can get really difficult for Digi Plus if the BSP were to crack down on that, because 90% of the bets come from e-wallets, and once you cut off that cash funnel, it becomes very difficult, I think, to attract the kind of revenue that they used to.
Yeah, and they're cognizant of that, Will. They're not just looking locally. They're looking at expanding in Brazil and in South Africa. How does going global reduce the regulatory risk here? Or would you say it would just create new ones overseas?
It's hard to say. Obviously, every country has its own set of regulatory drama. Brazil just recently has also been considering an outright ban on online gaming. But these aren't things that should worry investors, because considering that Digi Plus has basically zero operations still in foreign markets, I think any success there would be pure upside. Although it will be very challenging. One thing that Digi Plus had going for it locally was that it was a first mover in the Philippine industry. Looking abroad, they don't necessarily have that advantage. So I think the question still remains of whether they can compete internationally without, so to speak, home court advantage.
Yeah. Will, what are the key resistance and support levels you're watching on Digi Plus from here?
So I'm looking. So when Digi Plus entered the index, effectively last Friday, it closed at 26. I think that is a very key level to look out for. 30 on the upside has been a pretty sticky resistance point. I eventually expect this stock to settle in the high 30s up until the mid 40s, I would say. That's where I put the fair value at, but I think it's going to be a pretty slow burn for this stock to go up there, again, until we see some regulatory clarity.
Yeah. So, Will, just to be specific, what is the recommendation that AAA currently has on Digi Plus?
So, surprisingly, I actually think that most investors should just be waiting on the sidelines with regards to this stock. I think with this stock in particular, getting your entry correct is so important that I think before we see any sort of regulatory clarity, it's just too difficult to pin down what future earnings will be. Yeah. So my advice for most people is to wait and see on this stock.
Okay, interesting. Moving ahead, beyond Digi Plus, what's the next story? What's the next move for the PSE index? Outside of Digi Plus, what are the stories that could really move the market?
Wow. So, I mean, stories are something that our market has quite a shortage of, and it's apparent in just how active and how dominant Digi Plus has been. In the short term, I don't really see anything else that's too interesting. But as far as compelling earnings stories, another theme that I really like, and I've said this multiple times on social media and elsewhere, that I really do like mining firms. I am very bullish on the global price of gold, given all these global uncertainties ranging from tariffs to geopolitical risks to rate cuts. All of these things come together and suggest a higher gold price moving forward. And if you look at the local mining companies like OGP, Apex Mining, even Philex Mining, these three mining stocks have been up, at least 50% for the year so far, and I think they go up even more. That's another story that I find fairly compelling, but has been flying a bit under the radar compared to the media bonanza around companies like Digi Plus.
Okay, so mining, interesting. In the past years, booms, particularly real estate booms, centered around OFW remittances, BPOs, and POGOs. Could we see another sector take the lead in the next 12 months?
As far as property developers are concerned, the one big overhang, the one big story really that's been talked about is the supply overhang of residential and to some extent even office real estate in Metro Manila. That has been the overarching story. And has been a big reason for why property developers and their parent conglomerates, and by extension the index overall, has been quite lackluster for the last several years.
Yeah.
I think what the property developers have basically all said is that the next big growth avenue they're looking at is tourism, and I see much of the same. I think tourism is going to be the next big growth venue for all these developers, and I think for the country in general. But I don't think that's a 1 or 2 year story. I think that's a decade, if not decade plus story, because that will need investment not just from the private sector, but from the public sector, infrastructure wise as well. So I'm not expecting that to really be seen in the market in the next year or two. That's a very long term growth play.
Yeah, something we need to work on. And Will, just based on what you're seeing in terms of client activity, sentiment, is that more about building positions now, taking profits, staying on the sidelines? What are your clients doing in this environment?
I think clients lately have been, as we mentioned earlier, everyone's just been trading Digi Plus. Basically, all of my clients who I speak to have been involved in some form or fashion. And lately, it's been more about playing the defensive. People are taking chips off the table. People are waiting to see, are waiting for buying opportunities across several stocks. The laggards, the traditional laggards in our market, which have been the property names, have rallied quite a bit. And I think people are sort of looking for entries again. People aren't being very aggressive from what I can see.
All right. Thank you so much, Will Cabangon, the president of AAA Equities, for sharing your thoughts on the market with us.
Thank you very much, Mikey. Pleasure to be here.